Oric Consulting presents the Oracle Podcast with Anton Marshall. Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Oracle Podcast. My name is Anton Marshall. Today on the line we have someone who's, shall we say, quite famous in music industry circles, either as a musician or a manager or one of those people that works behind the scenes just to get everything done. Mr. Tumi Mothei. How are you doing today, Tumi?
I'm good, thanks, and yourself. Thanks for having me, Anton.
No problem. Tumi, let's start off by just asking what is currently on your plate, what's exciting, and what's happening in your life?
Well, at the moment, I've decided to take on a new venture, opening up and starting my own management agency. It's something that I've wanted to do for a very long time, and since moving down to Cape Town, the opportunity is kind of ripe. It just feels like now's the time. So currently started my own agency, put together a bit of a team. Right now it's about growing this company, putting together all the aspects needed to make this something really special, something that I kind of want to materialize this vision that I have for it. So at the moment, that's my number one priority.
Well, firstly, new city, now new venture, new company. How do you go about putting a team together for something like that?
I'll be completely honest. Its success in building the team really fell on the fact that I had relationships previously. My career so far within the music industry has really afforded me great opportunities and great relationships. So step one was to kind of call on some old friends who I knew would be interested in and keen to work with me, and fortunately they were. So I built some nice relationships, and I'm really glad for that. And when the opportunity came to start this company, people were so excited and so supportive. So that was a huge boost, and made it a little bit easier to kind of settle in, not only to my surroundings here in Cape Town, but to also just start this venture with a little bit of confidence that I've got some backing from people who know a lot more than I do as well.
People say that starting a new business is one of the most challenging and stressful things you can ever undertake. How have you been coping with it?
I can definitely agree with that. I can agree with that 100%. Many sleepless nights, but I've got this tendency or this thing about myself where I look at tomorrow and my tomorrow looks very bright. So just kind of always working towards something makes it a lot easier. It's tough now. It's still a very, very green company, very new company, but the stress kind of becomes worth it when you start to see these small things kind of materializing and kind of falling into place. But yeah, still a long way to go. Still quite a bit to do. But yeah, we're on the right track, and it's an exciting time for us. So yeah, all thumbs up this side.
When someone like yourself goes out, having worked sort of in a particular capacity or in particular companies, and then goes out and ventures out into their own in sort of the same or similar industry, normally you'll find that persons like yourself have some ideas about what they would do differently or something they feel they could do better. Did you have any of those kinds of thoughts about the business when you decided to go out on your own?
Definitely, I did. That's a great question. For my side personally, being an artist, traditionally coming from being a musician and then working with large record labels, small and large record labels in this country, I was able to kind of see both perspectives, and I kind of stood in the middle and I looked at the concerns that a lot of artists have and what they were crying about, and looked at what the record labels wanted and what they were also complaining about from artists, and there was clearly, there is a gap, that needs to be almost bridged, if you will. There's still today lots of artists who are definitely not happy with what they're getting from not only record labels but management deals, and that's where I saw my gap in the market, to be able to kind of fill in that that little gap. And I think the fact that I do come from a musical background in the sense of my being an artist, help in that sense. So I definitely saw areas. Where I was like, okay, well, this should be a little bit more lenient here, or this should be a lot stricter there, or this should be this way. It will benefit the artist, and that's where I'd like to think that it kind of benefits the company as an overall, as far as what we do. So yeah, so definitely it also kind of drives me in the sense that, I know I'm doing something a little bit different, and applying the knowledges that I've gotten from the record labels, and also the knowledge I've gotten from being an artist. I think is quite great as well.
I think quite a few bands who are not necessarily yet under management, or under artist management or anything like that might be listening to this. From your perspective, what are some of the most challenging things that artists need to be aware of when suddenly moving into this environment of now having to deal with, say, artist management?
I think one of the things that artists need to be aware of, and one of the things that they will be, one of the challenges that they will face, is understanding that their music is moving from a realm where it's just them, potentially just them having fun, to a realm where it's a business. When you take on an artist manager, and you take on a good artist manager, you need to understand that he or she is in the business of building a brand, building something tangible. And it goes further than just being able to play a couple of bar chords here, and being able to play a sexy riff here and there. Mm-hmm. The mentality of the band needs to change as well. The days of artists really sitting back and allowing one person to kind of run their career and they sit back and become rock stars is long gone. I can tell you today, not even the Justin Biebers of the world sit back and kind of just they do rock starish things, but they understand, they have business mentalities, and I hate to have used Justin Bieber as an example, considering how much what I feel for him, but just to contextualize it, all artists, you look at your Beyoncés, you look at your Jay-Z's, you look at even in your rock realms, the mentality, the Foo Fighters, they're running a business, and it's about being able to change your mindset from I can now play. And a lot of young artists kind of fall short here. They say I'm the greatest guitarist there is. I'm a great drummer. Our band plays amazing music, but then they hit a wall. And it's about being able to change your mentality. And when you're dealing with the artist manager, you really need to step up your game as well, because there's only so much a manager can do for you if the band is not willing to put in the effort on the other side of the fence.
Did starting to work for a label have that kind of impact on you as a musician, or did you come to this realization sort of before you started working in that capacity yourself?
I would say in my personal capacity, I was a little bit fortunate in that I did study music, and they kind of started grooming us already to think of our music as a career rather than just being able to physically play or having a talent. We studied music business, and that was something that kind of attracted me already. And so I was a little bit fortunate that even before I started working for my first record label, I was already kind of twitching in that direction of changing my mindset, but I was quite young, and it's quite hard to drill these things into a young 20-year-old, 21-year-old, or how old I was. So it did take some time and great mentorship to get me to a stage where, and I'd like to think I have a good understanding of the differences between just being able to physically play music and how I can groom a career, out of music in South Africa or in this country. Yeah.
We spoke to Gabby LaRue recently, and he was saying that in his opinion, at least, he found some sectors of say the South African entertainment industry still a little bit resistant to this idea of South African musicians in particular being able to deliver that world-class product. Firstly as an artist, and then secondly as an artist manager, do you find a similar experience? Are there some sectors of our South African market, if you want to call it that way, that are still resistant to the idea of South African artists and musicians being something that they can buy into on a large scale?
unfortunately, I think a lot of it does kind of fall to the mass consumers and mass consumers mentality, really, to be honest, because we do have international quality as far as not only being artists, but also artist managers in this country, which I look up to. And we are starting to use international standards as far as how we apply our management to artists. But yes, we are having a bit of a resistance. That's definitely still true, but it is something that just, it's simply put, time will kind of um, will work its magic in that sense. We still find that we approach venues, for example, and we're speaking to venues, and they're still sitting in yesterday, and we're trying to apply new ways of thinking for touring artists and for brands and for music, for moving music, yet we're still stuck in a state where people would far value something of an international that comes in from America before looking at a local thing. Meanwhile, here in South Africa, we're producing something as good and can be potentially cheaper. One thing I learned when I was sitting at in one of our A&R meetings at Sony was, and I thought this was beautiful, just to contextualize it, was if a consumer walks into a musica or record label store or anything of the sort, and they're looking at a Lil Wayne CD, and right next to the Lil Wayne CD is a CD from a local hip hop act. For some reason, already the mentality of the consumer is to say that this Lil Wayne album is much better. It costs more. Maybe it is more. It is better, is what I'm trying to say. So there's still that mass mentality which really needs to change, and I think the change would come from more exposure. We need bigger brands and bigger companies pumping more into local artists and highlighting the local artists a lot more. Not to say that there aren't. There is a huge shift I've seen in the last couple of years, which is fantastic. But we just need to carry on along this path so that we can change the mass consumption, the mass mentality that international is better than South Africa, which it isn't. It definitely isn't. And yeah, a prime example is right now is what's happening at the electronic music festival conference happening in Ibiza.
Yes.
With the focus being on South Africa, not South Africa, on Africa as a whole. And we're sending lots of representatives out there, and our quality of music and what we're producing coming out of Africa as a whole is a beautiful, beautiful thing that is equivalent to the international. We work a little bit different, yes, but we're equally as good.
Fantastic, fantastic. Okay, finally, then, having said all that, hopes and ambitions for your company now, going into the next year or two or couple of years, what is it that you would really like to be able to say you've done in 3 years' time?
I definitely, I have a beautiful vision for AAP Agencies, and what I hope for the company is for us to establish ourselves as someone who's doing things a little bit differently and implementing systems within music management and artist bookings and sponsorship procurement that's in the forefront, something that other management artists will look into and potentially apply as well. Our structures, I'd like to think, are a lot more flexible, and they're very much leaning towards protecting the artist as well. But it's still very fair. I did find this huge kind of when you look at an artist management company, they're just out to make their pocket, which, I mean, you understand, it is a business, but the artist ends up suffering in the long run, which for me was kind of hurtful, especially coming from being an artist. So I do want to see the company doing things differently, implementing international, and also our own adapted way of thinking and looking after artists. I want to build a big team. I want to build a big, strong team in South Africa and move out. And we're well on the way. I've already got some beautiful people working with me at the moment. And I just want to see growth, and I want to build trust within the music industry, because that's also some things that you tend to find a little bit lacking in some aspects. But I hope we can also bring out some great artists. We're already working with an amazing new act from Johannesburg who's just blowing out, called The Motherland. And we're just hoping to just grow some new acts that come and join our stable as well. We're looking after some great artists, so we're quite happy about that, and we just hope we can do more.
Fantastic. Tumi Mothei, thank you so much for your time today. I've got no doubt, sort of knowing what you've achieved, firstly as a musician, and sort of knowing the kind of work that you do, just from reading, behind the scenes, etc., that your new venture will be as successful as you've been in the past as well. Really, good luck with that. We're going to check in with you from time to time to see how it's going, if you don't mind, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for your time today.
That would be fantastic. No, thank you so much for chatting with me. It's exciting time, so thank you so much.
You have been listening to the Oracle Podcast, brought to you by Ori Consulting, www.oriconsulting.co.za.